Chris Carter here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Today, we talk about the Steelers and their matchup with the Jets, but what is going on with this quarterback situation? No official quarterback named yet, though we do think it will be Russell Wilson, but why I think this decision is still bigger than just the two names of the two quarterbacks that we're talking about. We'll talk about that, get all our Week 7 picks here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, joined today by Jenna Harner of Channel 11 WPXI. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things in the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show in your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in America. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. As I said before, we are rejoined by Jenna Harner from Channel 11 WPXI. Jenna, it's great to have you back. Also, Steelers fans, I want to point out, she ain't been here for 3 weeks. In the 3 weeks she was here, Steelers were 3-0. When she wasn't here, they're 1-2. So if you want anyone to blame, it's Jenna Harner's fault.
Wow, welcome. So glad to be back. Thank you so much. What a welcome. Yes, you guys can get mad at me. But hey, I'm back this week. So hopefully the Steelers can get things back and continue to, keep getting back on track and get a win against the Jets in prime time.
Yeah, absolutely. So the story of the week has been the quarterback situation. There's no hiding. We talked about it practically every day. There's still no official decision from the Steelers. As I said all along, I think Mike Tomlin's going to draw this out as long as he can to give the Jets as long as they have to worry about both quarterbacks being the guy. But the feel around the journalists that I talked to, the people that I talked to around the organization, there is a general sense that I think Russell Wilson is going to get the nod this week because it's been the plan for him to be QB1 of this organization. Justin Fields even admitting himself that he felt like he needed to do better in his first 6 games to show that there wasn't a need to go anywhere else. I want to play a clip from Justin in the locker room when he said that yesterday when we talked to him before practice.
Justin, is it a little frustrating if you don't start considering how you've played the first 6 games?
I mean, I don't think I've played, good enough, if I'm being real with you. If I'm being real with myself, I think if I did play well enough, I don't think there would be any sort of who should be playing, who should not. So at the end of the day, we got a few wins. Of course, I'm glad about that, but there's areas that I could be better at, and I'm just gonna continue to work on those and continue to get better.
What are those areas?
Like I said, it's so much area. I feel like this question gets asked a lot, but nobody's perfect in one area, so if you're not perfect, then you're just going to want to keep improving. So.
From game 1 to now, what do you think is the biggest thing you guys have as an offensive unit have improved upon?
Like last game, how we took advantage of, the defense's turnovers, how we capitalized in those areas, but of course, there's always stuff to work on.
So Justin Fields right there breaking things down for us and talking about how he didn't do enough. Jenna, I've talked about it on this show. We've talked about it. Justin Fields, undoubtedly, he's made the most plays of the Steelers offense. He has 10 touchdowns, 5 rushing, 5 throwing. But what the Steelers are seeing, and I think that what we can all see as well, there's times he's missing open targets downfield, either not seeing them, missing them with his throws. And I think what the Steelers are going for in trying to get Russell Wilson is they're expecting him as a veteran quarterback to make those throws. But I think it's very prescient and a great sign of maturity from Justin Fields that he can acknowledge his weaknesses while there's all this pressure that, hey, I'm about to not start anymore in my second chance of an organization.
Yeah, it's incredibly admirable the way he answered that question where he was incredibly honest. And we don't entirely get that from a lot of players. Sometimes you kind of get these canned answers where it's just, we'll see what happens. We'll wait and see. But this was a moment. And I think this is kind of what we see from Justin Fields a lot in the times that you and I have both talked with him, whether it's individually or whether it's in big scrums. He genuinely sits in there and takes a beat, takes a second, and gives an honest answer and gives something where it's like, hey, look, I know you have a job to do too, but also is very reflective. And I think that that's really, you can see that in a lot of the guys in the locker room too. I think that's one of the reasons he is so well respected in the Steelers locker room, whether he's the starting quarterback or not, is because he's honest and he takes those moments to kind of look within. And not saying that other players don't entirely do that, but it feels very refreshing to hear a quarterback speak like this, where they're very self-aware. And he's like, look, hey, if I had made more plays, and I mean, I think he knows, we can all kind of say last week was probably out of the 6 games that we've seen from him in totality with the Steelers, was probably not his best performance, at least that first half. But you see just him kind of reflective and then be like, hey, look, if I played better, there wouldn't be a conversation here. But I also think too, we always knew from the beginning when Mike Tomlin when the Steelers said, hey, Russell Wilson is coming to be a Steeler, we knew that this was going to end up Russell Wilson's job, whether Fields was lighting it up or not, just the way that it felt. And to me, he didn't go out there and capitalize and take it and say, hey, look, this is my job. I proved to you that I am the quarterback right now. I also don't think this is the last time we're going to see Justin Fields start this season, but
I agree.
You have to respect him for the way he answered that question and the way he was like, hey, look, I'm being honest with you guys.
Absolutely. And then I wanted to also play a quick clip of Russell Wilson when I asked him, because, I mean, one of the main things here is if Russell Wilson, his whole thing is, hey, he's going to understand, he's going to know the offense in and out. He's going to be able to counter defenses. If that's going to require timing, that's going to require chemistry, that's going to require connection, something he has not really had a whole lot of time to build, considering he's been injured for most of this season and most of training camp. So I posed that question to him after Steelers practice on Thursday. Here was Russell Wilson when I asked him that.
Timing is important in any offense. How have you tried to, timing is important in any offense. How have you worked on that timing with guys like Calvin, George, guys that you haven't been able to play a game with yet?
Yeah, I think you're constantly working extra. You're doing it. Even when I was injured and everything else we were getting extra work on the side. So that was key, doing as much as I could. But also, I think just talking ball. These guys love football. Calvin, George, and just talking details and what his thought process and how we see things. And then Van Jefferson, he's a guy who's a champion, a guy who's a great, tremendous worker. Scotty Miller, there's so many guys that we have, the plethora of receivers that we have, the tight ends, the running backs. Obviously Pat Freiermuth, so talented. Darnell. I look forward to the guys that we have, and I always think that the dark horse of guy who's one of probably the smartest and gets the game of football is Connor Hayward. I think just how he sees the game. So, I think with our backs and with our guys up front and everything else, we got a lot of opportunity, and we're just constantly learning. And I think that's how you create the timing rhythm is the work.
I've said for the whole week, even before this week, I'm not sure if Russell Wilson will end up being the guy that the Steelers hope he will be. But it's clear they think he can be that guy listen to all those names. He went through everybody: George Pickens, Scotty Miller, Calvin Austin, Connor Hayward, Darnell Washington, Pat Freiermuth. He went through all these different guys because this offense is supposed to be about a balanced look, because, listen, nobody on this offense is a superstar yet. George Pickens, that you hope can be. You hope Pat Freiermuth can become a top 10, top 5 tight end in the league. None of the offensive line have become superstars. Najee Harris isn't a superstar, though. I think people are seeing that he has talent there. But the point is how do you beat teams? You beat them with a balanced attack that involves everyone, a true team effort. And I think Russell Wilson gets that message.
Absolutely. I think too that, again, we knew coming into this season the plan of what this team wanted to be offensively. Like you said, the balance. They wanted to really be able to rely on that run game, and that would open up things in the passing game. They wanted to really utilize tight ends, and we know Arthur Smith, and that is one of his calling cards in terms of how he built his offenses. So you knew coming into the season, especially too with the 2 quarterbacks that they had, yes, there was the whole competition side of things that everybody felt like was going to be Russell's job no matter what, but it doesn't, the offense is so much more than just if it's Russ, if it's Justin, if it's question mark, whatever. This offense is built to be balanced, is built to say, hey, look, we're running the ball first. We can have a really consistent run game. We heard TJ Watt after the game talk about how demoralizing it is as a defense when the team can run the ball well against you. And I think that's what the Steelers are really aspiring to do a lot more consistently. But we kind of knew that this was going to be what this team was going to look like. And I don't want to say by any means Russ and Justin are in that kind of game manager category, but this offense doesn't feel entirely built around, hey, we need to ask our quarterback to, it's not built around a quarterback the way, say, the Ravens offense is, say the Chiefs offense is, where it's you have this incredibly talented guy who's the focal point, who you build everything around. This offense was built to be more, hey, some days the tight ends are going to eat, some days the running backs are going to eat. It's going to be divvied up more than just relying on like one focal point, where again, because I don't want to say there's a reason, but Denver is paying Russell Wilson $38 million to not play for him. And Chicago said, yeah, we'll trade you Justin Fields away for third round pick, believe me, if I'm right.
I think it was a fifth that's conditional to be a fourth, I think.
Yeah, that's where my brain went. I was going to say fourth and fifth, but
you're fine.
So that shows you how these other teams valued these quarterbacks. This was meant to be a spread out, that type of offense versus, hey, this quarterback's coming in and they're going to be the one that changes the way this offense operates completely.
Exactly. To bring this home, and I know I apologize to my bosses because they prefer shorter first segments so we can get the ads in. But I'm giving you a longer first segment here to drill this home. I had to also include Najee Harris in the locker room also after practice on Thursday because there's a really good part where he talks about the team and them coming together, because it wasn't just the O-line, it wasn't just him, it was even the tight ends and the running and the receivers blocking downfield and completing a play. But then I want you to listen to how he responds when asked about the difference between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields and how he brings it back to the team. Listen to how he handles both of these questions. Here was Najee Harris in the Steelers locker room after the Thursday practice.
But as far as, Mike talked about the way you guys were able to finish, or Arthur did about in the running game, be able to finish. Is that something you can build off? Did you see things watching film maybe that even look better than what you saw on the field Sunday?
Yeah, man, I saw all of 11 as Dick trying to dig out blocks and working downfield for blocks too. Like Pat had that one that sprung loose. But things like that, like I said in the press conference after the game, that's what makes the big plays, the big runs that people see that we want to. It's just the extra blocking that happens downfield. Getting through the line of scrimmage is one thing, but getting back to the second level and helping out with blocks too, that's what springs the big plays all across the league, and that's what we're trying to focus on.
Najee, what's the key to carrying that over or building on that from last week?
Practice. Practice finishing blocks, and you got guys finishing plays and straining all the way through the play. And, just because it may look like the play's over with, you're still trying to get on blocks, man, because anything could happen. People could break more tackles and, things could happen. So just really straining and working downfield for blocks.
As an offense, what do you gain with having Russ on the field if he is who starts?
We got to execute the game plan. You guys focus so much on one player as if it's the thing. It's all 11 of us. You guys are worried about the quarterback, but I'm worried about all 11, the quarterback and the line and the receivers and the running back. So, Russ being out there, he got to do the same thing that Justin been doing. Justin been doing a great job for us. This is the best start that I think I had throughout my years being here. I saw some comments that Justin said about him not doing the best that he can, but I think that he did the best he possibly can. I think he did a really good job, and he shouldn't. I know what he's trying to do, but just me saying publicly that we're all proud of him. Don't be so hard on yourself. We got your back. I got your back. But I think that all 11 of us got to pitch in and be in there because we need both of them for sure. So.
So Nji Harris, I want to point out a couple things here. One, talking about the whole offense when trying to take it off of the quarterbacks there. I think that's awesome. But this is also clearly the team guy here. He's talking about we all got to do this. Is about us as a group. He gets it, which is why another reason why I think the Steelers should resign him. I don't think they will because of how running backs work and what they're trying to do. But Najee Harris, if you want a locker room dude who can bust his butt on the field, but also be the kind of guy that you want to get help rally the troops. Right there for you.
Yeah, I mean, and this is something too. This is something we've heard from Najee a couple times. When you ask him specifically about a quarterback, when you ask him about one specific player, he's like, no. This is the entirety of us. We are an offensive unit together. It's all 11 of us. That was something big that he said, like he mentioned after the game. That was something I really noticed in his post-game comments after the win against Vegas, where he said, look, it was because we all worked as a collective. We all worked as an entire unit, all 11 of us. It is so crucial. I think that almost lends you to see, okay, earlier this season, they might not all have been operating on the same page. This offense might have not all been operating in the ways that they all anticipate it to be. And you see some of the frustration come out in Najee, and rightfully so when things aren't going well. But a week like last week, it's like, hey, look, there's a lot of really good things that they can build on. And I don't think for him, he's like, it's not going to change the game plan entirely. Yes, Justin's legs are a little bit more, and that's kind of something a lot of the guys in the locker room have said. Like, yeah, there's obviously going to be more designed quarterback runs for a guy like Justin compared to a guy like Russ. But to me, this is like, hey, this offense in its entirety wants to operate. And for them, they're like, we have two really good guys that we have faith in no matter which one of them is under center. And I think that also alludes to that we're going to see both of them, like head coach Mike Tomlin mentioned earlier this season.
I agree too. Point being, this is a quarterback conversation I don't think is closed regardless of who gets picked this week. But the point is who can get this offense running as a complete unit better. Can Russell Wilson's passing do that? Can Justin Fields running and passing do that? We will see as time moves on. But we got to get to our picks. We've had a very long first segment. We'll get to our picks in a second here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Jenna Harner, stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, we'll remind you this show is also brought to you by Arena Club. For most of us that like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on big value collector items like a rookie Patrick Mahomes or TJ Watt cards or Justin Herbert, it just isn't in the cards. I love collecting, but that's some serious money to drop. Thanks to slab packs from arenaclub.com, now it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. Every card that I listed was hit from last week's Arena Club slab pack drop. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. Arena Club slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your pulls are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent with a full grade rationale provided, an explanation of how your card was scored. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform you have to check out right now. You can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code LockedOnNFL and that's arena.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code LockedOnNFL for 10% off your first purchase at Arena Club. We're also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, pros and sharks, you just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can watch your winnings roll in. Prize Picks is the fun new daily fantasy game that everyone needs to start playing right now. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with any injury insurance policy. Your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup alive. Now, Prize Picks, you can win up to 100 times your money by just making 4 correct picks, and that's in NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, and college sports, and so much more. So download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com today. When you go to prizepicks.com, make it prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code LockedOnNFL, and you get $50 instantly when you play just $5. That's code LockedOnNFL to receive a $50 bonus for just playing $5. That's at Prize Picks. Prize Picks. Run your game. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter, here with Jenna Harner of Channel 11 WPXI here in Pittsburgh. We now move to the picks segment here. Jenna, you and I are staying relatively close. I believe I have 58 correct picks. You have 53. So we're pretty neck and neck right here. But we got some leaders up at the top of the pack of the Locked On Steelers Pick'em group on ESPN.com, which is now at 365 people. Thank you, everyone, for playing. You can also join anytime you want to pick with us. Our current leaders, we have 3 people tied for first. We have BB Wyant. We have an ESPN 85 with a lot of other numbers. And Mr. Ryan 229. Congratulations, you are all in first place with 63 correct picks. But there's a lot of people right behind him. So let's get into our picks this week, Jenna. And we'll start with Sunday, 9:30 across the pond. The Patriots are at the Jaguars. This is bad on bad, but the Jaguars are 5.5-point favorites. By the way, all these odds and lines you can get from FanDuel Sportsbook at FanDuel.com. Jenna, your first pick of the week, Patriots and Jaguars.
I'm going with New England. I like what we saw. I know, wild. Jacksonville, I can't pick Jacksonville. They are not good, and I know they're the more desperate team coming into this game. I think New England, all of my friends that cover the Patriots out in Boston/Rhode Island have said this team is inspired with the performance of Drake May from a week ago. I don't think they have a lot of other weapons, but I think that they kind of get some stuff going. It's London. Weird things can happen. So I like New England as a fun little upset here.
So what's crazy was I thought I was being bold with that, making that my upset pick of the week because they're 5.5-point dogs in another country. But look at you also picking the Patriots. All right, great mind, think alike. Let's go to this game. Titans at Bills, the first 1 o'clock game. Bills 8.5-point favorites here. I'm going with Buffalo. Give me the points too. I think they destroy the Titans.
I love the Bills against the Titans. The Bills defense has kind of been what's been keeping them in some games recently.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't love their offensive performance against the Jets, but hey, they have a brand new weapon in Amari Cooper. Josh Allen's going to have a lot of fun there. So I like the Bills here.
Same here. The Titans just also haven't been good. This is a matchup next that I think some people are billing as a potential Super Bowl matchup. The Houston Texans at the Green Bay Packers. Packers are 2.5-point favorites at home. I'm rolling with Green Bay because I love what I've seen out of Jordan Love, but I have a hard time picking against the Texans because that is a good team right now.
I do too. This game, there's a couple of these games this week that I'm just like, both of these teams feel very, very talented, very similar. I also like what Green Bay's defense has been doing. Their defense is forcing a lot of takeaways. They have a really solid safety tandem. So I like Green Bay, but I think Houston's going to keep it close.
I agree. I think this is going to be a close one all the way down. Dolphins at Colts. Colts are 3-point favorites at home. I'm taking the Colts. The Dolphins have just been really bad luck with injury.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate too with the Dolphins, but when Tua is not there, that offense is just not friendly to any other quarterback but him. And the Colts are playing some solid football. Not anything spectacular, but not anything horrendous. So I like Indy.
I'm going to go to this next game in the NFC, which I think is a good matchup that's getting overshadowed by several other really good matchups. The Seahawks at the Falcons. Falcons 3-point favorites at home. I'm taking Atlanta simply because I think that the Seahawks offensive line is a problem. I think that the Falcons can take enough advantage of that. But I think this is two good veteran quarterbacks in Geno Smith and Kirk Cousins duking out. I think this will be a fun watch.
I think so too. And I'm also just I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Sorry about that. That one, I was feeling the tickle in my nose. Fall allergies are still here, people.
They are.
Geno Smith has not been playing spectacularly, and it's just you want to see a guy like him succeed. I love what the Falcons have done. I think they're building with each performance on the season. I like Atlanta, but this one is really intriguing.
Absolutely. Detroit Lions at Minnesota Vikings. This could be a game of the week here because the Lions are only have one loss. They've been playing phenomenally, though they will be missing Aiden Hutchinson. The Vikings are 1.5-point favorites at home. The Vikings undefeated to start play at 5-0. They're coming off a bye, and I'm taking the Vikings. I think I would have picked the Lions had Aiden Hutchinson not been knocked out for the season with a very unfortunate injury. But I think that the Lions take a little bit to bounce back from that. I think Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson, they eat for Minnesota. What say you, Jenna?
I go back and forth with this one because I think there's so much that both of these teams come into this matchup with that I look on paper and I say, oh yeah, either one of these teams could easily win this game. I just like what Detroit's doing a little bit more. I like what we've seen on them. I think they're also just going to continue. They're not going to put a butt whooping on the Vikings the way they did on the Cowboys, which that felt like there was some anger being released there. But I like the Lions here, but it's hard to bet against an undefeated Vikings team coming off a bye with Sam Darnold playing some of the best football of his career and that defense looking really good.
The Bengals at the Browns, an AFC North showdown. But with the Browns trading away Amari Cooper, they are 5.5-point home dogs to the Bengals here. And I don't think that's enough points. I don't think that the Bengals have solved all their problems, but I think they're going to roll the Browns out of this stadium in a very bad way.
Yeah, give me the Bengals and the points here. Cleveland is just woof. Not great, Bob.
Not great, Bob, at all. Eagles at Giants. Your New York Football Giants. They've been competitive. They've had some close calls here. They're also 3-point home dogs to the Eagles. in this matchup. That's a 1 p.m. kickoff. Jenna, I'm going with the Eagles. Are you going to stick up for your boys, or are you still like, nah, this ain't the time?
No. And if anybody saw my Instagram story from Sunday night when I was wearing my Giants sweatshirt, and I'm like begrudgingly wearing this because I'd like them to score. I'm excited that the Giants get Malik Neighbors back most likely this week. I think that he is such a boost to that offense, but I think they have too many defensive woes, just losing another player to injury, and Saquon Barkley revenge game is written all over this one. So I like the Eagles as much as it pains me.
Yeah, I'm taking the Eagles as well. Raiders at Rams, our 4:00 game start here. The Rams are 6.5-point favorites at home, and they're 1-4. But granted, the Raiders are 2-4. They've just traded away Davante Adams. It's looking really rough there. I'm going with the Rams. I don't know about the points. That's a lot of points to give, but I'll take the Rams at home.
Yeah, I feel like this is one where I would take the Rams, but I would have the Raiders cover. Both of these teams are not great. LA is dealing with still a bunch of injuries, but to me, it's like, okay, which team is like the lesser of the worst team? And I think that's the Rams.
Panthers at Commanders. Commanders 8.5-point favorites. I'll take that and the points. The Panthers are just really bad. Washington's going to run up the score on them.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this is going to be a solid day all around. I think Washington got a little bit of like okay, this is what it's going to take to compete with the big boys of the Ravens and the Chiefs in the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
But I love what Jaden Daniels has been doing this season. I think he played really, really well and has played up well up to this point. So give me the Commanders.
Same here. Chiefs at Niners. The Super Bowl rematch here. The Niners are 1.5-point favorites at home. I must be missing something here. They're 3-3. That the Chiefs are undefeated at 5-0. Maybe there's a matchup that I see, but like the Niners are hurt up pretty bad. The Chiefs have their own injuries to worry about, but I'm taking the Chiefs. I mean, making the Chiefs dogs, road dogs. Give me that. Kansas City's ready for that.
Kansas City is undefeated and Patrick Mahomes is undefeated. I cannot bet against Patrick Mahomes. You just can't do it unless they literally have all practice squad receivers, and even then, God knows, someone from some small MAC school that we've never heard of that has never performed well is going to go off. So I'm going with the Chiefs. That's really what I'm saying here.
Monday Night Football. We skip over the Steelers game for next. Monday Night Football, got two contests, a reminder. The Ravens at the Buccaneers, another big interconference matchup here. The Ravens are 3.5-point road favorites over the Buccaneers. I've been going back and forth about this game, Jenna, but give me the Bucs. I think that Baker Mayfield and that passing attack has got something for Baltimore, and it's going to lead to an upset. That's my big upset pick of the week since you took the Patriots heat away from me. I'm going with Tampa Bay. What say you?
I like the upset, and I don't like the Ravens secondary. I just think this feels like a shootout, and I think this one is one of those games that I think the Ravens are going to have the ball last, and they're going to win with Lamar. I don't know, though. I keep going back. This is one of the ones, there's like this one, the Chiefs and the Niners, the Vikings and the Lions. Those are like the three games that kind of keep flipping back and forth here. I like the Ravens just because I like too much of what their offense is doing in the balanced attack that they have. But this feels like a shootout written all over it.
The 2-4 Cardinals host the 3-2 Chargers on Monday Night Football. They're the second Monday night game. FanDuel has the Chargers as 2.5-point favorites on the road here. I'm taking the Chargers here. I'm very skeptical, but I think mainly because of their defense am I doing that in this game.
That's exactly how I feel. This one is a little skeptical to me just because I think both of these teams are kind of like, you look on paper and you're like, okay, there's a lot of talent here. They're playing football. There's parts of the games that they play really well and parts of the game where you're like, what are you doing? What's happening? I like the Chargers in this one, but I could see this going either way, really.
Agreed. We have a lot more to talk about. Steelers Jets in our preview of those picks next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, a reminder, if you liked all those odds, ends, and lines, they came from FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in America. And you can go to FanDuel.com for all the odds, ends, and lines. This week, the Steelers are 1.5-point home dogs to the New York Jets this Sunday night, and the Jets are sitting with a money line of -134. The Steelers +114. It's moving slightly to the Jets' favor as the week has gone on. The over-under, though, still sets put at 38.5 points. Get all your odds, ends, and lines for all matchups at FanDuel.com or on the FanDuel app today. You can start your season with a big return on FanDuel, because today, if you're a new customer, you make your first $5 bet on FanDuel, you get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. That's a $200 of free bets for new customers when you bet just $5 only on FanDuel.com. Visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. We are back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, here with Jenna Harner of Channel 11 WPXI. Jenna, let's get into this Steelers matchup now. A quick review of the lines here. Again, I just said them, but I'll say them again here. The Jets are 1.5-point favorites on the road here. Money line is minus 134 their way, plus 114 Steelers way. The over-under set at 38.5 points. All those odds and lines from FanDuel. Now, Jenna, as always, we talk about factors in this game. I talked with John Butchko, who's the Locked On Jets host on Crossover Thursday yesterday. He says, yes, everyone's excited for Rodgers and Adams, but he is concerned about the Jets' offensive line and their ability to protect against the blitz. And if the Steelers bring the blitz, which they have not often this year, I asked Terrell Austin yesterday if they were going to bring the blitz, and he looked at me. I was like, what you trying to get out of me there? So he gave me I'm not answering no questions about strategy. Come on now, but as he should. But I think that's something the Steelers have to be. But also, John Butchko said on the flip side of it, on the defensive side, he said, listen, I know the Jets have had really good blitz numbers, but their defense of the run hasn't been great, and he's concerned about that happening. Those seem to fit two advantages that play right to how the Steelers want to play. The question is, Jenna, will they play that way in this game?
It's a good question. It really is. I think watching what the Jets did against the Bills, there was things that you're like, oh, okay, this will be tough for the Steelers to go against. And then there are also points where you're like, okay, this is where the Steelers can exploit this. I just see the Steelers on paper are a better team. And I know Davante Adams adds explosiveness to that offense. I know there's just going to be a couple explosive plays we see from him and Rodgers. But also I do wonder, because Joey Porter Jr. has been having a very solid season. Dante Jackson and Deshaun Elliott have been two of the biggest additions. And also, can we still talk about the fact that Minkah Fitzpatrick does not have an interception yet this season?
Yeah.
Forced fumble this season. The floodgates feel like they're going to open. And I feel like this could be the ideal game for them to do so. To me, no matter who is under center for the Steelers, if it's Russ, the way that it seems to be trending based on what's been said, what we've been hearing, all the things, the reps in practice, every part of this, you're going to see, I feel like, more accurate passing. You're going to see they're going to be open throws, but it's not going to be, I know we talked in the earlier segment, there were some ones that Justin Fields missed. I don't entirely know if Russell Wilson is going to miss those. Now, on the flip side, the sack, not percentage is the right word, but the chance of Russell Wilson getting sacked because of his lack of mobility compared to Fields' mobility is something that I'm a little cautious about in this one. But to me, I really just feel like this should be a game the Steelers win. And I think their defense is going to be a big part of it. And it's really just, if it is Russell Wilson, can Russell Wilson come in and perform the level Justin Fields did or slightly better? And I think the Steelers should win this game strictly based on that.
I think that's where the Steelers, again, they have to play to their strengths in this game. They cannot allow Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams to be the story, but how you do that, get after them. They have older offensive tackles. You're getting Alex Highsmith back this week, most likely. TJ Watt, I know that they don't have Nick Herbig still, but you got to make that a factor. And yes, they're missing Zach Frazier on the center on the offensive line. They still need to be able to run the ball in this game. But I think, like you said, if Russell Wilson starts and he's able to hit some guys downfield, this Jets secondary is hurt up. They're missing their number 2 corner. I know Sauce Gardner's the man, and if he travels with George Pickens, I think that's fine. Travel with George Pickens. This is the game where Russell Wilson, this is very much a game set up to show, hey, this is what the Steelers have been waiting for you to see from you. Can you attack their linebackers, their safeties, their slot corners? Can you get the ball to Calvin Austin when he breaks open over the middle part of the field? Can you get the ball to Darnell Washington when he's in a mismatch because no one's as tall as he is and very few people can tackle him if they can run with him? So I think this is where it could play to Russell Wilson's strength, but at the same time, the Jets have been getting after the quarterback. The Steelers got a hurt up offensive line. They've also, Broderick Jones hasn't played well yet. There's a lot of things that could play against the Steelers and the Steelers defense. They definitely have given up their fair share of big plays this season. It's going to come down to, can the Steelers bring the script to their side, but also show that with Russell Wilson, there is a different script. If they're able to hit on a few things that the Jets haven't seen yet, and again, expand that passing game to open up the run game, I think that's the hit there that could crack the wall that is the New York Jets and start getting a lot more plays for the Steelers as the game goes on. Jenna, with all that being said, give us your X factor, your turning point in this game, and where you and your final score for how you see this finishing out.
My X factor, honestly, is if everything trends the way that it seems like it's trending. If Russell Wilson, it's Russell Wilson. If how he performs, how much of that rust he has really shaken off. That's something head coach Mike Tomlin said. Yeah, he's done that. That's something Russ said. Yeah, I've done that. Now it's, hey, okay, go out there and show everybody, prove it that you did that, and prove it that you are the veteran quarterback that reads defenses really well and knows how to get rid of the ball really, really quickly and has that savviness to him that Justin Fields, not that he doesn't have it, but just a little bit more of, he's younger, has a little bit less, or not a little bit, a decent amount less experience, but that Russell Wilson has that experience that Justin Fields doesn't. Show it, prove it out there. I think the X factor is going to be something we've been saying a lot this season, a defensive takeaway, or let's flip it too. It could be a defensive takeaway or a Steelers back-to-back scoring drive that really kind of keeps the Jets at bay and kind of keeps it consistently a 2-score game, a 10-point game, something in that range. 2-score, obviously, is 10-point, but I'm talking about like a touchdown, and you know what I mean.
I got you.
I think this game ends 23-17, but I don't think it's going to feel that close for the entirety of it. I think the first half will be close, but again, if the Steelers can kind of get to a quick lead, hold that lead early, I think this is going to fare very well in their favor, force Aaron Rodgers to have to make some plays. I think the defense is going to have one, if not multiple interceptions on the day. So I think this should be a game the Steelers win. However, the line's a little intriguing to me, so we'll see.
One thing John Butchko said that I still want to harp on, the Locked On Jets host who we had on for Crossover Thursday. He said that one thing that the Jets have struggled with is that blitz. So now, will the Steelers blitz? They don't blitz a lot this season. When I asked Terrell Austin, like I said, he played it off. He was like, "Oh, I ain't talking about that." Patrick Queen and Landon Roberts, Peyton Wilson, they are all in through Peyton Wilson's college play, Landon Roberts and Patrick Queen's careers. They are good blitzing linebackers. If the Steelers are going to disrupt the Jets, I truly think, one, it's going to take the guys up front, Benton, Hayward, Watt, Highsmith. They're going to need to do their parts. They're going to need to create problems. But I think if the Steelers are able to get the blitzing linebackers, time them up the right way, put Breece Hall in defense mode to protect Aaron Rodgers, I think those are the things that you can do to disrupt what the Jets do. That's your X factors. The blitz there, I agree. Russell Wilson's the story of the game if he starts. But if they do that on defense, it keeps the Jets offense from getting ever into a flow, and that'll give the offense time for the Steelers to figure it out, because it might take them a drive or two with a new quarterback to get it. You hope it doesn't, because Russell Wilson's a vet and he's supposed to come in hot. But if the defense does this, it might not matter who's back there. It could be Kyle Adams, and maybe the Steelers can pull this out in that situation. That's my X factor. My turning point, like you, is a defensive turnover. I think the Steelers back-to-back weeks with 3 turnovers. Justin Fields, as you heard him say in the clip we put on the show when we talked to him after practice, he said the biggest thing that they've been able to improve upon, they were able to score after the Steelers turnovers. They had 0 points off the turnovers against the Cowboys, 17 points off the turnovers against the team they just beat, which I'm blanking on right now, the Raiders. Right.
That shows how poor the Raiders are this season. Just
exactly. But if the Steelers are able to do that, I think, the turnover and scoring off the turnover, that could be the turning point of this game. Like you, I have this game being not a blowout, but not a nail biter as much for the Steelers. I have the Steelers winning 26-20. I think that the Jets, they find a way to get just back. They get a late score that makes it look a little bit closer, but they go for an onside kick, don't get it, and the Steelers are able to run out the clock at the end of the game. But both of us have this being an interesting matchup. It's going to come down to who can set their style of play faster. I think it's going to be certainly a really fun one to watch, as we'll both be there for Sunday Night Football at Acrisure Stadium.
Ooh, that's right. We will definitely give a little plug here, but the game is locally on WPXI, NBC here in Pittsburgh. So tune in. Our pregame show starts at 6 o'clock. You can also stream it online too if you're not physically in the Pittsburgh television market. Got a lot of really cool stuff. I'm sitting down with Rocky Blyer later this afternoon to talk about the 74 Super Bowl team, which is really cool. Shelby Cassesi, my co-anchor, co-reporter, she sat down with Cam Hayward, has a really awesome story on him. So stay tuned. It's going to be a fun week. And then we have our live post-game show as well. So if you're up late after the game, tune in.
Absolutely. She's Jenna Harner from Channel 11 WPXI. Jenna, thanks so much for joining us. Follow her at Jenna Harner 11 on Twitter/X. I'm Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. Read my work at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, post-gazette.com. Find me here on the Locked On Steelers podcast every day, Monday through Friday, talk about your Pittsburgh Steelers right here. We'll be back Sunday night, late Sunday night, after the Sunday night football game on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Tune in for our post-game reaction. We'll see you then.